I'm James Amato, and this is Transit Talk. Today we had the opportunity to visit with Raleigh Mayor Mary-Ann Baldwin and talk about commuter rail. Mayor Baldwin, good morning, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to sit down with you and just have a conversation with someone face to face without a mask on.
I know.
No Zoom. I'm so thrilled to be able to talk with you about commuter rail this morning. And the region's booming. And I'm eager to understand from your perspective, what are the region's strengths in terms of managing this growth and development, and also its weaknesses?
Well, I think one of our major strengths is we're a region. And we have cities with different personalities. And we also have urban areas, we have suburban areas, we have rural areas outside the region. So there's something for everyone. If you want to live on a farm and raise chickens and work at Apple, you can do that. If you want to be part of the inner city, you can live in Durham or Raleigh. And so I think it's the choice. And I think that choice is part of our strength in dealing with growth. One of the challenges is a lack of density. And one of the things that we've really tried to do in Raleigh, we're getting there, is building density along transit corridors. That's where it belongs. So it's really thinking about and changing the way we grow to accommodate gentle density and more density.
Okay. Weaknesses that stand out to you, or challenges that sort of stand in our way for the future?
I think one of the challenges is that people don't see the need for transit, and they're comfortable in their cars, so it's really a culture change. And one of the things that we've been working on rail for 20 years here, and there are a lot of stops and goes. This time around, we're making progress. We had a 10-year plan that we put into action, and so I think the big hurdle for us is helping people envision our future, what that's going to look like, and how rail fits in.
So how might the Greater Triangle Commuter Rail Project accentuate the strengths of the region while helping us address those challenges?
Well, first off, we are a region, so we'll connect our region. We're not connected right now. This just makes it easy. If I want to go to DPAC and see a show, when DPAC opens, I can take commuter rail. I could take commuter rail to go to a Durham Bulls game. That is so much easier than getting in my car, and vice versa. I think it also opens up job opportunities to people, say living in Johnston County, connecting them to RTP, to Durham. It's that connection point. So it's opportunities, it's connectivity, but it's also better for our carbon footprint, and it will reduce congestion. And I've been in a hour plus drive over to Chapel Hill out on I-40, and that's not fun to do every day.
You've mentioned that commuter rail remains atop your list of transportation priorities for the region. Can you expound upon that a little bit and maybe interject some commentary about those strengths and maybe what effect they had on where commuter rail lies within your transportation priorities?
So, we didn't just come up with the idea of commuter rail. This has been 10 years in the making, where we had Jarrett Walker, transit expert, come in and kind of guide us through this. And we put together a group of 75 people from throughout the county and talked about what rail could look like, how transit could contribute to that. And one of the things we learned is just don't start with commuter rail. You have to build toward it. So Raleigh Union Station, that's been open now 3 years. That was built for the future. It was built to accommodate Amtrak, but it was also built to accommodate high-speed rail, commuter rail. That's the hub. Then we started building on and changing the way we operated our bus system. So instead of a large geographic area being served with 2 buses a day, which is not convenient, we learned to understand that coverage isn't as important as frequency. So we modified our routes and to put more frequency into it to increase ridership. We also will have bus rapid transit on Western Boulevard connecting Raleigh and Cary and parts of Capitol Boulevard. So that's part of the system. Commuter rail is what joins it all together.
Yeah.
And it's all built together to support that. So when we do launch commuter rail, it will be successful.
So over a decade of conversations and data analyses, and you have an opportunity to talk to people, real people affected by this, and then also over the years in terms of the innovation and use of technology and sensors, you're able to take qualitative data from the people and compound that with the quantitative data you can get from technology, and you've got almost a perfect storm to help make a decision. Can you share a little bit more? Because I think that's important when you say people lack an understanding of how these things come together. It strikes me you're trying to connect desirability with feasibility and viability, and that's where the magic happens. But that does take a long time and a lot of tireless work. Can you share a little bit more about that with us?
Well, it does take a lot of time because you are doing a lot of analysis. Sometimes we study things to death, but this is one time when, we have to have that data because we need the proof points. But what we also need is the ability to provide people with choices. They don't have a choice right now. You don't have a choice to get on commuter rail and then, enjoy Wi-Fi while you're there. Maybe you're making some phone calls, you're getting some things done for work. That's a productive 30 minutes of your time instead of sitting in traffic for an hour. And I think once people see the benefits, it's easy. So you have proof points, but then people help tell those stories. I remember going to Charlotte. This was when I first got on city council. Worked with the Chamber of Commerce, and we did a trip to Charlotte. We took the train, which was appropriate, and then we visited their light rail system. We talked to people who were riding light rail, and they were saying, it's convenient. I can get work done. I can, talk to my mom when I'm driving home. I can, or riding home. I can plan things like I'm making up my grocery list. But the other thing people were telling us is, I've lost 10 pounds because now I walk. And instead of driving a car, I'm walking every day, maybe a quarter of a mile, and, to and fro. Change in lifestyle. So healthier, better for you, and you can throw all the data you want at that, but when you experience it, that's the aha moment.
So you've worked on, in some capacity, transit-related projects from the vantage point of a community servant with the Chamber in your business career and now as mayor. Can you talk about how the experiences you've had have affected your current platform and stance on transit?
Well, for me, part of it is personal.
Okay.
When 2008 hit, the Great Recession, my boss at the time called me in the office and asked me to lay somebody off. And this is a young, talented woman making like $38,000 a year. And I thought, really, what does that really do to help us weather this storm? And I said to him, what if I gave up my company car? Can I keep her? And he said, yes. So I gave up my company car. I didn't have a car. I learned how to take the bus. I walked a lot more, but it was one of those experiences that made me see and feel what other people go through when they need public transportation. So it made me a lot more empathetic, made me a lot more understanding, and it made me more of an advocate. I was an advocate to start with, but when you have that experience, you know the need. And so it's the personal part, but it's also the part that I know it's what's right for our region and will make us, we're great, but it'll make us greater.
What do you love about commuter rail? Just love about it. What do you love about it?
I just love being able to get on a train and relax instead of getting in my car and dealing with stress and an accident or weather or whatnot. I mean, it's stress free. You get on there, sit back, read a book, downtime. Perfect.
Awesome. There's a spectrum of us, some in business, some in, many different walks of life. Some students, this region is such a melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hopeful you might help those who may not have the same context as you or tenure here understand this need. Can you maybe help the new person to the region, or perhaps the tenured person that just doesn't have the empathy that you have from not having had that opportunity to take the perspective of someone? Can you maybe help them understand what you see?
Well, how I try to lead is to look 10 years down the road. If you're just looking at today, you're being delinquent in looking at tomorrow. So when I look at transit, when I look at commuter rail, I look at 10 years out. If we don't have that, where are we going to be? We're not going to be attractive to companies. We're not going to be attractive to young people because we're going to be like suffocating in our cars, just struggling with traffic. And that's not the region we want. I lived in New York before I came to Raleigh. And I used to laugh when people complained about traffic here because I was like, you ain't seen nothing. But, the fact is, we are growing. I came here 33 years ago. It's a totally different city and a totally different region than it was then. So when I talk to people about it, I try and get them to see what our future will look like with or without transit and commuter rail. The future without is not pretty. The future with can help us get over those growth bumps.
What you're saying makes me curious about how these companies, Apple, Amazon, Google, many others, many incumbent companies that have been here for years but continue to scale and grow, look at transit. I'm curious what role transit and perhaps commuter rail are playing in those investments. And whether or not those folks are sort of looking at it like you are, like what will this turn into 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 years down the line? Can you maybe take us inside of their thought process from your vantage point?
Well, one of the things I heard is that one of the things that Amazon didn't like about our region was the lack of public transportation. And I think where we are now, companies like Apple understand that them coming here can be a catalyst for that. It can help make things happen. It can help us grow in a positive way. Young people too. Here's another thing. You're talking about these companies. They want to attract talent. More and more young people are putting off getting their driver's licenses. They don't want to drive. And, I was talking to a parent the other day saying, my daughter just turned 18. She finally got her license. It's a different mindset. Yeah. I think young people are really concerned about our environment. They're concerned about carbon emissions. They're concerned about sustainability. They're concerned about the future. And I think that is also going to be part of this choice is you're going to have a new generation, or we already have one coming up saying, this is important to me and we need to do things differently.
You have me thinking a lot about, what motivates people, what moves people. And in the sense of, carbon emissions and even some of the other things that may seem abstract to the layperson, the connectivity of an underrepresented person to a potential employment opportunity. Commuter rail might make things more proximate for people. We live in an era where everything that's said is scrutinized, and we have to be very clear with our proof points and make sure they're founded in reality. What are some of the proof points in your mind about commuter rail, and in what ways might we make them more front and center for folks who may be scrutinizing?
Well, there's several ways that commuter rail can really, I think, help create opportunities for people. First off, there's a lot of discussion right now about affordable housing and people being pushed out of Raleigh or the outskirts of Raleigh to different parts of Wake County, Johnston County. I mean, those are areas I think that we really need to think about, connecting people to opportunity. Commuter rail does that. We need to really look too. Apple is investing $100 million, they've said, over the years into our education system. So training people for those jobs becomes important. It all kind of ties in together. So, workforce development, training, working with like Wake Tech and other, colleges and universities to help us train people for the jobs of the future. And then commuter rail helps them get there.
Mayor Baldwin, what didn't I ask you today that you thought I would have, or maybe should have?
It's time for action. We've been talking about this for 20 years. We've been talking about commuter rail for 10 years. I just want to get this done.
Right. Trick question, not trick question, fun question. In one word, only one, can you capture the benefit that commuter rail would bring to the region? This is my favorite.
One word.
One word. That's it. Just one. You can hyphenate.
Game changer.
Love it.
Is that hyphenated? One word.
We need to call it a lifeline on that one. Let's call it hyphenated, but I love it. Well, thank you, Mayor Baldwin, for being a game changer.
Thank you.
And I appreciate our conversation.
Thanks for having me today.
Thank you.